All right, this text is called Mission Twinpossible. This is about the Kelly twins. So far, human participation in space exploration has been limited to missions close to Earth. Astronaut crews have been living and working in the International Space Station in Earth's orbit since 2000. The farthest a person has gone is to the moon, but the next step may be landing on Mars, Earth's nearest planet. So this is our background information. So this is going to be about astronauts. When Scott Kelly calls home from the International Space Station, the ISS, sometime this year, whoever answers the phone might simply hang up on him. The call will be welcome, but the connection can be bad. That can happen when you're placing your call from 229 miles above the Earth. When someone answers, I have to say, "It's the space station. Don't hang up," says Scott. So this is talking about Scott Kelly. We can infer that he's an astronaut, and he is going to have to be saying, don't hang up. He's going to be making a phone call from 229 miles away from Earth in space. But his brother, Mark, knows the crackle of an extraterrestrial signal in his ear. Mark is a former astronaut who has been to space 4 times. Mark is also known for being married to former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who was hurt in an assassination attempt in 2011. So here we're just given some background information about Mark's wife. So Mark is the brother of Scott. So we know that Scott is an astronaut because it's saying he's going to be calling from space. And we see that Mark is his brother. Right here we have the word extraterrestrial, and this word has a footnote right here. So if we look down here at our footnote, we see that extraterrestrial means not from Earth. So I'm going to circle this word. I'm going to write not from Earth. Mark and Scott, 50, are identical twins. They have the same genetic makeup. That means they have the same DNA. Though they have served a combined 7 missions, the brothers have never gone to space together. So both of these brothers, okay, they are both astronauts. They're identical twins, so they have the same DNA. They've both been to space, and together they have gone to space 7 missions. So right here. Combined 7 missions. So that means all together. In March, Scott will leave with his family in Houston, Texas for a 1-year stay aboard the ISS, the International Space Station. So we see right here there is another footnote, number 2. And if we look down at our footnote, it says this article was written in 2015. So I'm just going to make an annotation up here that this was written in 2015. So he's going to be going on the ISS for 1 year. It will set a single mission record for a U.S. astronaut. Scott will share his marathon mission with Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko. A rotating cast of 13 other crew members will join them for shorter visits. So Scott's going on this International Space Station for a year. He's going to be doing the whole thing with Mikhail Kornienko, but there's going to be other members joining them, and they're not going to be staying as long. And this is really interesting because it says that it's a single mission record for a U.S. astronaut. So that means that no one has done this before. No one has been on the International Space Station for a year. That's a long time. The US has long dreamed of sending astronauts to Mars. The biggest problem with reaching this goal is simply the human body. We are designed for Earth. In space, bones get brittle, eyeballs lose their shape, hearts beat less efficiently, and balance goes awry. There's quite a lot of data, there's quite a bit of data on human health for 6 months in orbit, says Space Station Program Manager Mike Suffredini. Do things change at 1 year? So here we see that they've been wanting to send astronauts to Mars, but they really don't know what the effect is going to be, because if they go to Mars, the astronauts will be there for a long time. So they're talking about the effects of space on humans. So we can see that their bones, humans that go into space, their bones become brittle. Their eyeballs lose their shape. That's kind of freaky. Their hearts beat less efficiently, and their balance is kind of off. Okay? So this happens because there is no gravity in space. So the question here is, we've got some data for 6 months, like what happens when someone's in space for 6 months. We have that data, but do things start getting worse, or do they stay the same if someone has been in space for 1 year? Okay, so this question here is they want to investigate this. They want to learn more. NASA needs subjects to test the long-term effects of space. In a perfect experiment, every subject would have a control subject on Earth with the exact same genes. This would help scientists separate the changes that come from being in space from those that are a result of growing the same year older on Earth. In the Kelly brothers, and only the Kelly brothers, NASA has that 2-person sample group. So when you do an experiment, you need a control, and you also have the subject that's being tested. So this is interesting because there aren't many astronauts that have the same exact genes, right? The only people that have this and that are capable of doing this experiment are the Kelly brothers. So that's why this is going to be happening. So they're going to test how someone ages. Okay, so they're going to be looking at how someone ages in space. All right, that's going to be Scott. He's the one that's going to space. He's going to be on the ISS for 1 year. So that will be, I'm going to put Scott under here. Versus Earth. And that's going to be Mark, his identical brother. So they're going to be looking at the differences in both of them. Scott will be in space for 1 year. They're going to see how his body reacts to that, and they're going to compare it to Mark, who is not leaving. He's going to be staying on Earth. Star twins. Scott's days on the ISS will be packed with science experiments, exercise, and monitoring and fixing the station's system. So that's everything he'll be doing when he's up there. The station is stocked with movies and books, and the crew can surf the internet. On this flight, Scott and Kornienko will be very closely monitored with medical and psychological tests. Mark will undergo similar study on the ground. So they're going to be doing the same tests in space as they're doing on Earth, so that they can get the similar information, okay? Scientists hope that comparing the data will shed light on the impact of spending a long time in space, because that's what they want to know. What happens to the body when it's exposed to being in space for a long time? So right here, what happens to humans in space for a long time? Scott's upcoming mission may be equal parts science experiment, endurance test, and human drama. To the Kelly brothers, it is just the latest mile in a journey they've shared for half a century, as they're 50 years old. So they're saying that they've been sharing this journey, since they were born, because they're identical twins, and they're still sharing the same journey even in space. So this right here, it says endurance test. What that means is how long you can last. So I'm going to circle this, endurance. So, for example, if there are two runners running in like a marathon, one runner might have a higher endurance than the other. So one person might be able to run 10 miles where the other runner can only run 3. So that's what endurance means, how long you can last, okay? So we see in this text that these two twins, one's going to be staying in space, one's going to be staying on Earth. And this journey, right? Remember, we're talking about explorers. We're exploring here what are the effects of space on the human body. And Scott is going to be exploring in space and the effects of his body, and Mark is going to be exploring on Earth and the effects of his body. And then they're going to compare the two. So that is what this text is about. These two identical brothers, okay, I don't know which one's which, Mark and Scott, who are going to be performing this experiment that only they can do. There's no other person in the world that can do this.